Hey guys, so this is going to be the recording for the last homework assignment on the semester. First thing that you have to do is get this file from iCourses. That is going to be the startup code for the project. So I'm just going to unzip that. So unzip P08 starter, and that is going to be the code that I will be using, right? In here, I have this other zip file that is going to contain the models that are going to simulate the submissions that you had for project 5, 6, and 7, or whatever number is in the version of your class. So in my case, I'm going to have the heavy Pokeball, the Pokeball, and the timer ball. So those are going to be the examples that I'm going to be putting in this project, right? So this project was created with 4.26 in mind. If you're watching this and there's a newer version available, you should be able to just upgrade fairly easily. So I'm just going to double click on this new project, and I'm going to pause the recording here, and I'm going to be back once Unreal Engine is done loading. Okay, now with Unreal loaded, you're going to be presented with a scene that looks empty. That is just because it's an empty scene. In here, you're going to have a bunch of folders. If I click, I like watching this with the tree view in here, but I have a couple of folders that are going to be containing important stuff, like all of my blueprints and code is going to be in this Alberto base. I'm going to also have some files that are coming from Unreal directly, and I'll just let them in the example positions that they are created with. So for instance, demo, example, content, and mannequin. That's something that Unreal provides in some other projects. So that's I'm just going to be keeping them like that. The important one is going to be IGME219. At this point, it's kind of empty. The only thing that you will have is maps. So if you double click on that map, that is going to open the scene that is going to get populated with all the assets that we are going to be creating. First thing to notice here on the top is going to say light needs to be rebuilt, and that is because it's cached. So pretty much every time that you open up a project in a different computer, that is going to pop up. So this is usually the last step for me in this example. Now, the way that this homework assignment is going to be graded is based on the not on how artistic can something get. There's going to be little to no creative input in this assignment. It's more about can you configure the steps in or the project in such a way that I can combine different projects from different students. So most of the grade, or if not any, all of the grade is going to come from, can you follow these steps? So be very pay close attention to what I'm going to be doing, because that is going to be the bulk of your grade. Again, we're not really going to be modeling anything new. You're just going to be bringing in assets that you may have already worked with. So in here, what I'm going to do is just give you an example, right? So this is going to be my starter. The first thing that you have to do after you open this file is go to File and then Save Current As. This one I'm going to put inside of IGME219 maps, and this is going to be P08 Bobadilla L. So P08 last name and first letter initial. So I'm going to save that, and that is going to start setting them up, and then you get to see that now this is also a preview light. That's okay. It is really important that you do save this file with a different name, because otherwise you're going to be overwriting P08 starter. And if you overwrite P08 starter, then if I have more than one P08 starter in my scene, it's just going to get overwritten. So I would basically be like, I didn't receive your homework assignment, which it sucks, right? Now, both of those scenes are going to be exactly the same at this point. So if you're not sure which one is which one, you can always double click on that, or you can take a look at the name in the tab. Here in the top, I know that it's a little bit hidden by my overlay, but in here it just reads P08 Bobadilla, and I guess I could just make this move for a second. So it's going to say the actual name of the scene that you want to open, right? So I'm just going to put this up. And now the next thing that I want you to do is go to this IGME219. This is a blueprint object. Select that, and there is going to be a component that is going to be the description editor. So down here, look for the description, and then look for the text. So that's going to be the color description. This is the text that I want to put in, and I'm going to put my name. So Bobadilla Alberto. If you feel like changing the color for the text, that's fine. I don't care so long it reads your name, right? So I'm just gonna keep it like that. But if I wanted to, like, I want to make it red, I can totally do that. So that's not an issue. If I hit play, I should be able to see a red character. So you know that you are not using the default mannequin. So there you go. That's that part. Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be bringing in my assets. The scene is super dark at this point, so if you feel like you want to have more light in the scene, you can always go to build and rebuild the lightings. And I'm going to do that. I'm just going to pause the video because it's going to take a couple of minutes to do so. So I'm going to pause this and I'm going to come back in a second. All right, so once that is done, and it took like 2 minutes for me in my computer, the light is going to be way better than what I had before. So each one of these platforms is going to have a really small specular light shining on it to this direction that is going to highlight the assets. But yeah, rebuilding the lights definitely helps in this case. So I'm going to go back down to IGME219, and now what I want you to do is right click and make a new folder. This folder is going to have your name, so that consider this step 2. Bobadilla L. So again, that is going to be my last name and then my first initial. And then in here, I'm going to be making 3 folders, right? So I'm going to make P06 and I'm going to give it a name. This one is going to be my first name, first asset name. So Pokeball. Next one is going to be my new P07 heavy ball. And then the last one is going to be P08 timer ball. Right? So now with the 3 of them, I'm going to go inside of Pokeball and I'm going to hit add import and I'll look for import asset. So that is going to open this window and I'm just going to browse for my file so that I know it's in my desktop and I know it's inside of models. So inside of models, I have my textures. I will import a Pokeball. So Pokeball, Pokeball, and Pokeball, those 3 assets. I'm just going to put them in my scene. And generally speaking, I want to import my textures first. So I'm going to do that in the root folder. So I don't need to import them individually. Just need to import the 6 files there. And again, I will do that individually for each of the assets, but just want to try to get these video as short as possible. So I'm going to be taking those 3 and I'm going to be taking these 3. So it's going to be on the timer ball. Now, the reason that I imported the textures first is that if Unreal knows the textures or the path location for those textures, when you import a model, it is going to create the material for you with the right associations of the file. So that's great. I'm going to hit add import and I'm going to hit import and I'm going to hit the Pokeball. Now, this is going to be really important. Notice that the import uniform scale is set as 1. Maya units and Unreal units is different. Here we're going to be working with meters, so 100 centimeters is going to be making a meter. And in Maya, you don't really know how much or the units that you have set up, right? So in here, if I bring this in, this is going to be super small. If I hit F, that is going to be, I think I made it in like 1 unit radius, so it's like 2 units. I think in there is centimeters. So it is going to be, when I exported it, it's just going to make it or treat it as it's way smaller than it should be. It's going to be divided by 100, and you know, this is small, and I can't really work with that. So I will need to remove it and import it in the right size. But because of I don't really know the size that I want to work with, one really neat thing that I can do inside of Unreal Engine is click on this. That is going to lock all of them to have the same size. I'm just going to move these to have a little bit more space. And if I click and drag, that is going to make it scale. So I'm going to scale to the right. And I already know that 6 is a good size for this thing to have. So this is a good volume for a Pokeball to have. But I wanted to show you how to, kind of measure it against the world. Now in here, I know that the Pokeball is fine. So what you want to do is go back to the outliner and find the Pokeball that you just draw, or the asset that you just draw, or select it from here, and hit delete. That is just going to get rid of that. I'm going to take that Pokeball and I'm going to delete that. So the reason I'm deleting it is because now when I import it, I can just say, hey, Pokeball, you're going to be imported with a uniform scale of 6. And when I do that, the Pokeball is going to be the size that I want. And that is really neat because now if I drag more than one Pokeball, I don't need to adjust every single individual Pokeball on the scene. All right, so that was step 2, bring in your assets, step 3, bring in your assets and make sure that they are in the right size. Now, this is something I don't want you guys to do. Like the purpose of this is for you to have something like a Pokeball in display. This that I just did is wrong. And I'll show you why in a second. So if I hit play and I go back to my scene, yeah, I get to see the Pokeball. It's in the pedestal. That's sort of the objective of this thing, but it's not what I want. So I'm going to click that. I'm going to remove it. And this thing in here is a special blueprint. This blueprint is going to have a field for a special mesh. So I can just drag and drop that thing in here and it's going to look as in the right place. I just need to take out the location because it's actually hidden underneath this pedestal here. So I'm going to be moving this a little bit up. Any height is fine, really, so long I can see it when I'm walking around, that's good. And then you might be wondering, what is the difference between the two of them? Well, now the difference is if I go in and I get in front of the model, the whole model is going to rotate. Whereas if I just drag the model and put it on top of that thing, that wouldn't rotate because there's no relationship between one or the other. Also, over here, when I click on that and I go to the properties of the demo tab on the top, I can look for number. I will say 6 because this is my homework assignment number 6, and this is going to make the text appear over here. And then model, I'm just going to replace that with Pokeball. So now that I have that, it's easier for me to take a look at the models on the scene, right? And I get to see it rotating and I can see them for all the angles. Now let's do the same almost from start for the other assets. So that gives you a better idea what is the workflow that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go back to heavy. I already have the texture, so I'm going to hit import. In here, I just want to bring in the heavy ball. I know that the size that I created is exactly the same, so I will just use scale 6. And again, I don't want to drag and drop. That's not right. You're going to get points deducted on your assignment if you do that. You want to select this thing. And this one is going to be number 7. And this one is going to be heavy ball. And I'm just going to select the mesh, drag and drop it, and then location, I can move it up. Now, let's say that that is not the right orientation. Like, I'm done with that, but let's say that it's not the right orientation that I wanted. For whatever reason, when I imported or exported, this came rotated in a weird way. You can always do this, and that is going to change the rotation of the Pokeball, right? So I'm going to go here. Or, well, let's say that it's not the right size. Like, this is super small for me, and I wanted to see it larger. I can do that. I can just select this scale, and this one is not locked to the 3 of them, so I can do a 5, 5, and 5, and there's going to be a really large Pokeball on display. But just there is no right or wrong scale for this. Just make sure that I can see it, and it should be fine. So that is a Pokeball. All right, let's do it one more time just to be sure that we grab it. So select this one, go to the folder, add import, timer ball, make sure the scale is fine. The display is already there, so I just need to grab this, drag and drop it, push it up so I can see it. There you go, that's good enough. This one is facing the wall, so probably I want to rotate it under the Z-axis, which is pointing up. There you go, now it's facing forward. Maybe I want to make this thing easier to see, so I'm just going to make it size of 3. And then I want to do number. This is homework assignment 8, and this is a timer ball. All right, so done and done. This is by far one of the easiest assignments that you have done for this class. This is just, can you follow this set of instructions? And the main reason really is because when you're working in a project, you want to have a clear pipeline of what your assets are going to be. You want to have a really good idea or standing on how to import these assets and just start working with them. Let it be for a game, let it be for any other project. You want to make these as easy as possible for the programmer to just do whatever they have to do with the assets. So that's it. That is pretty much it for this. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do, me as a teacher, with the projects. So this one, I'll save it. And let's say now that I want to talk about somebody else's assignment. So I'm going to go to description text. And in here, let's go to, where's my text here? So let's say that someone else also provided this. So that is the main reason file save current as P08 someone else that I want to have this sort of thing. All right, so I have these two scenes. I have the someone else scene, which again, it's the same, but you will see the someone else name in here. And I have if I go back to my IGME219, maps, and Bobadilla, save all of these things, please do. And I'm going to have that Alberto file, right? There's another property that I created here in this blueprint. So if I click on the name or the scene, and I look for next level, and I change these to P08 underscore someone else, and I save and play it, now this thing is going to appear here. When I get into this volume, that is going to load the other scene, and I get to see somebody else's work. And I'm going to be doing this compilation for all of the students in the class. And that's why it's important that you follow the naming conventions and all of those things, because that may break the workflow. See, I mean, someone else cannot teleport me to any other scene because someone else scene didn't have a tag. So this name here, I can just very easily say P08 and then Bobadilla L. So this kind of resembles a linked list. So I have a node and I have a next, and that would be considered like the next, right? So I'm going to go back here and I can really easily start teleporting between different scenes. And again, I'm going to do that for all of the students in the class. There are a couple of things that you can change in here. If you want to make it, like if you want to include more assets, you can click on this thing and say number of rooms. So I just added 3 by default, but you can make 30 out of them. You can make less. And now if you make more, what you will need to do is take a look at these two, Control W, and just move them onto the right position because they're right on top of each other using the same assets. So I can add more things in here if I wanted to. The lights, everything is going to be in the right position. So I will need to change the asset now because you can see that it's just facing in a weird, awkward direction. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope that it's clear enough. If you guys have any questions, please do let me know. And as always, thanks for watching.